Most people spend their lives trying to be liked, never realizing that respect disappears the moment fear of losing approval takes control. What if the greatest weakness your enemies can sense is not your lack of strength, but your need to be accepted? Today you will uncover Machiavelli's unsettling lessons about becoming impossible to intimidate without becoming cruel. These ideas are not comfortable, yet they have shaped rulers, leaders, negotiators, and ordinary people for centuries. Before we begin, comment the words, "I fear nothing," if you are ready to challenge the habits that quietly steal your power. Then subscribe, like this video, and stay until the very end, because the final insight reveals a silent truth that most people spend an entire lifetime avoiding. A truth capable of changing how you see yourself and everyone around you forever by mastering the courage to stand alone without seeking anyone's permission again today. To understand why Machiavelli insisted that fear often outlasts affection, you must travel to Renaissance Italy, where alliances shifted overnight, betrayal was common, and survival demanded psychological precision. Niccolò Machiavelli did not write from fantasy, but from observation, studying princes, generals, and republics collapsing under human ambition. His greatest insight was not that people are evil, but that they are predictable when desire, insecurity, and self-interest collide. Over time, his ideas were reduced to manipulation, allowing their deeper lessons about emotional independence to fade into misunderstanding. Modern psychology now echoes many of these patterns through research on status, boundaries, social perception, and cognitive bias. In a world obsessed with validation, Machiavelli quietly reminds you that the person who cannot be emotionally controlled becomes extraordinarily difficult to defeat. That forgotten principle is the foundation beneath every lasting form of authentic influence, resilience, strategic confidence, and personal freedom today, always relevant. Now that you understand where Machiavelli's ideas emerged, it is time to descend beneath history and examine the strategic doctrines that separate commanding presence from quiet submission. Each doctrine exposes a hidden pattern governing human behavior. Together, they reveal why fearless people rarely need to announce their strength to anyone. The first strategic doctrine is simple: never negotiate from emotional hunger. The moment you need approval, your judgment bends toward compromise before the conversation even begins. People instinctively detect dependency through hesitation, excessive explanations, nervous smiles, and unnecessary concessions. Machiavelli understood that power belongs to whoever can walk away. Modern psychology calls this outcome scarcity independence. When your identity no longer depends upon another person's acceptance, your brain makes calmer decisions. Boundaries become believable because they carry real consequences. Think about the colleague who politely refuses manipulation without raising a voice. Others eventually adjust because resistance remains consistent. Fear grows from predictability, not aggression. Your greatest leverage often comes from silent willingness to lose what weaker people desperately protect. The paradox is striking. The less you cling, the more respect naturally follows. Emotional independence is not coldness. It is disciplined freedom that prevents others from controlling your decisions through attachment. The second strategic doctrine demands that you master silence before mastering speech. Most people reveal their intentions because anxiety pushes them to fill every pause. Machiavelli recognized that uncertainty creates psychological pressure, forcing impatient opponents to expose weaknesses voluntarily. Modern negotiation experts observe the same pattern whenever disciplined listeners consistently outperform impulsive talkers. Imagine someone criticizing you while expecting immediate defense. Instead of reacting, you calmly observe, maintaining relaxed eye contact without emotional leakage. Suddenly, the other person begins explaining, justifying, and even contradicting previous claims. Silence becomes an invisible mirror, reflecting hidden insecurity. This does not mean becoming distant or emotionally unavailable. It means speaking deliberately, allowing every word to carry intention rather than desperation. Your restraint communicates confidence because controlled people rarely rush toward unnecessary conflict. Eventually, others stop testing boundaries when they realize emotional bait no longer works. Quiet composure transforms ordinary conversations into subtle demonstrations of inner authority. The third strategic doctrine teaches that consistency intimidates more effectively than occasional displays of force. Explosive reactions may shock people once, but predictable discipline reshapes their expectations permanently. Human brains constantly search for behavioral patterns because prediction increases psychological safety. When your standards remain unwavering across changing circumstances, others quickly understand that manipulation produces identical results every time. Consider the respected manager who always rewards honesty and always confronts deception without favoritism. Employees stop gambling because outcomes become reliable. Machiavelli understood that stable authority removes hope for successful resistance. Inconsistent leaders invite endless testing because uncertainty encourages experimentation. Consistent leaders quietly eliminate negotiation before arguments even begin. This approach also strengthens your own character. Every repeated decision reinforces neural pathways supporting self-control, making disciplined behavior increasingly natural. Fear, rooted in consistency, does not require anger, volume, or intimidation. It emerges because people recognize that your values cannot be purchased, pressured, distracted, or emotionally negotiated away. The fourth strategic doctrine warns against displaying every capability you possess. Hidden strength influences human perception more deeply than constant demonstration. Throughout history, skilled commanders concealed reserves until decisive moments because uncertainty weakened opposing confidence before battle even started. The same psychology appears inside business meetings, relationships, and everyday competition. People often underestimate those who resist boasting, then panic when unexpected competence suddenly appears. Modern behavioral science explains this through violated expectations. Surprises command attention because the brain prioritizes unpredictable information over familiar patterns. Instead of advertising every achievement, allow results to introduce your abilities gradually. Let curiosity replace self-promotion. Quiet confidence invites observation, while arrogance provokes resistance. Machiavelli believed mystery extends influence because incomplete information forces others to imagine possibilities greater than reality itself. When people cannot accurately measure your limits, they naturally become more cautious. Strategic restraint transforms uncertainty into silent protection without requiring threats or theatrical displays. The fifth strategic doctrine insists that reputation begins long before direct confrontation ever occurs. Most conflicts are decided by expectations formed through previous observations, stories, and repeated experiences. Machiavelli carefully cultivated the understanding that perception shapes behavior before facts receive careful examination. Social psychology supports this insight through research demonstrating that first impressions influence later interpretations despite contradictory evidence. Every promise you keep strengthens invisible credibility. Every unnecessary excuse weakens it. Your daily habits quietly construct the identity others anticipate meeting tomorrow. When your actions consistently align with your words, skepticism gradually disappears because predictability replaces doubt. Strong reputations reduce resistance before negotiations even begin, allowing influence to emerge naturally rather than forcefully. Yet reputation remains fragile. One careless pursuit of popularity can erase years of disciplined restraint. Before continuing, ask yourself honestly, which habit secretly teaches people they can ignore your boundaries without meaningful consequences today? Having mastered the outward doctrines, you are ready to confront the darker machinery operating beneath ordinary behavior. These mechanisms shape perception before reason awakens, directing loyalty, resistance, admiration, and betrayal. Recognizing them does not corrupt your character. It prevents others from quietly exploiting your unexamined vulnerabilities every single day forward. The first dark mechanism reveals that people rarely fear strength itself. They fear unpredictable consequences. When someone repeatedly escapes accountability, observers unconsciously conclude boundaries are negotiable. Conversely, when calm consequences consistently follow deliberate actions, uncertainty disappears. Neuroscience suggests brains constantly estimate risk through repeated experience rather than spoken promises. Machiavelli understood that reliable consequences quietly reshape expectations. Imagine refusing disrespect with measured distance every single time. Eventually, manipulators search for easier targets because the emotional reward vanishes. You never needed threats or dramatic confrontations. Your consistency transformed calculation itself. Respect emerges because others believe your response before conflict even begins. This mechanism explains why disciplined leaders conserve energy, while reactive personalities exhaust themselves. Fear grows from certainty, not spectacle. The strongest position often belongs to the person whose quiet standards never require repeated explanation. Their restraint becomes the invisible warning everyone remembers. Long after conversations end, reputations continue enforcing boundaries. The second dark mechanism exposes the irresistible pull of emotional contrast. People quickly adapt to constant kindness, constant generosity, and constant availability until extraordinary effort feels ordinary. Scarcity reverses perception. Behavioral psychology demonstrates that intermittent rewards capture attention more effectively than predictable ones. Machiavelli recognized this pattern centuries before laboratories confirmed it. Strategic distance renews appreciation because absence interrupts psychological adaptation. This does not encourage manipulation through cruelty. Instead, it reminds you to protect your time, attention, and emotional presence from becoming endlessly accessible. Someone who remains selectively available appears more valuable because access requires mutual respect. Every thoughtful refusal strengthens perceived worth when guided by integrity rather than arrogance. Ironically, desperate availability often communicates insecurity instead of compassion. The strongest relationships flourish because both people freely choose connection instead of assuming unlimited access. Value increases whenever your presence remains meaningful rather than permanently guaranteed through disciplined restraint and intentionally. The third dark mechanism concerns identity rather than action. People defend the image they create of you even when evidence changes because confirmation bias quietly protects existing beliefs. First impressions become mental shortcuts, conserving cognitive effort. Machiavelli exploited this tendency by carefully managing reputation before decisive moments arrived. Once others classified someone as disciplined, courageous, or unreliable, later events were filtered through those expectations. Your responsibility therefore extends beyond isolated achievements toward consistent identity signals. Dress with intention, honor commitments, regulate emotions, and avoid impulsive contradictions. These repeated behaviors gradually construct an internal narrative inside every observer's mind. Eventually, opponents hesitate, because challenging your established identity demands greater psychological effort than accepting it. Never confuse authenticity with randomness. Authentic character expresses stable values across changing circumstances. Strategic consistency allows your reputation to perform silent negotiations before your voice enters the conversation, creating advantages impossible to manufacture during pressure alone. Consistently. The fourth dark mechanism reveals that unresolved ambiguity magnifies imagination. Human minds instinctively complete missing information, often exaggerating both danger and opportunity. Skilled strategists understand that excessive disclosure weakens psychological leverage because certainty reduces curiosity. Machiavelli observed rulers preserving selective mystery, allowing rivals to speculate instead of calculate accurately. Contemporary research on uncertainty reaches similar conclusions, showing ambiguous situations trigger heightened attention and emotional engagement. You should never deceive without purpose. Yet you should resist explaining every decision, every ambition, or every future plan. Quiet discretion protects opportunities while encouraging others to underestimate your preparation. Many failures begin with unnecessary announcements, inviting criticism before meaningful progress exists. Let completed actions speak louder than unfinished intentions. Mystery should emerge from disciplined privacy rather than theatrical secrecy. When people cannot confidently predict your next move, they become more cautious, granting you valuable strategic space before conflicts even develop without wasting emotional energy. The fifth dark mechanism demonstrates that confidence spreads socially long before logic intervenes. Emotional contagion influences groups because people unconsciously mirror visible certainty during uncertain situations. A composed individual entering chaos often stabilizes everyone nearby without delivering inspiring speeches. Machiavelli understood that visible self-possession quietly legitimized authority. Modern neuroscience associates similar effects with automatic social synchronization and threat assessment. When your breathing remains steady, your posture balanced, and your decisions deliberate, observers interpret those signals before consciously evaluating evidence. This explains why panic frequently multiplies, while calm gradually restores collective judgment. Developing internal regulation therefore becomes a strategic responsibility, not merely personal wellness. Your emotional discipline protects clearer thinking for yourself and everyone depending upon your example. Before continuing, ask yourself whether your presence consistently reduces fear or silently amplifies uncertainty whenever pressure unexpectedly arrives around you today. Choose the atmosphere you create because others will remember it longest. Knowledge without disciplined action fades into forgotten inspiration. The following strategic disciplines translate Machiavelli's observations into daily behavior, forging calm authority through repeated practice. Each discipline strengthens your mind before testing your circumstances, ensuring respect grows naturally because your character consistently communicates unshakable inner command every single ordinary day forward. The first strategic discipline requires scheduling one daily moment where you deliberately refuse unnecessary approval seeking. Choose a conversation where you normally over-explain, apologize, or chase reassurance. Instead, speak clearly, state your position, then remain comfortable with silence. Notice every impulse demanding immediate validation. Do not fight the feeling. Observe it until it weakens. This exercise retrains emotional dependence into deliberate self-trust. Over time, your nervous system learns that disagreement rarely threatens survival. Confidence stops becoming performance and starts becoming habit. People respond differently because your decisions appear anchored rather than negotiated. Record your experiences each evening to identify recurring triggers and gradual progress. Small victories accumulate into remarkable psychological resilience. Eventually, you recognize that freedom begins whenever your peace no longer depends upon another person's approval, praise, attention, agreement, permission, expectations, reactions. Only your unwavering integrity and disciplined choices determine your lasting authority every single day ahead, always. The second strategic discipline trains your attention before it trains your behavior. Begin every morning by sitting quietly for 5 minutes, observing your breathing without distraction. Whenever your mind imagines criticism or rejection, gently return attention to the present moment. This simple ritual interrupts automatic fear loops before they shape decisions. Neuroscience suggests repeated attention training strengthens emotional regulation while reducing impulsive reactions. Throughout the day, pause before answering difficult messages or confrontations. Ask yourself whether your response serves truth or insecurity. That brief reflection prevents emotional manipulation from hijacking your judgment. Calm thinking becomes your default advantage. Others gradually notice that provoking you produces thoughtful restraint instead of predictable drama. Eventually, they abandon easy psychological attacks because your composure consistently denies them emotional leverage while strengthening your self-respect with every deliberate breath you take under pressure without surrendering your place. Inner balance. Again, no matter who stands before you. The third strategic discipline develops selective disclosure. Before sharing any important goal, ask whether revealing it creates genuine advantage or merely satisfies excitement. Many ambitions fail because premature praise tricks the brain into feeling accomplished before meaningful work begins. Protect early progress through intentional privacy. Let measurable results replace dramatic announcements. Keep a private journal tracking actions instead of promises. Review it weekly and celebrate evidence, not fantasies. This discipline strengthens internal motivation while weakening dependence upon external applause. People eventually recognize that your achievements appear quietly, yet consistently. Their respect grows because your confidence no longer requires witnesses. By protecting unfinished plans from unnecessary attention, you preserve energy for execution rather than performance. Silent progress compounds into undeniable authority that surprises observers and leaves critics reacting after your victories become impossible to dismiss completely, despite their expectations of failure or hesitation, because disciplined. Patience consistently outperforms loud intention alone. The fourth strategic discipline requires rehearsing difficult conversations before they happen. Visualize remaining composed while someone questions your competence, challenges your boundaries, or attempts emotional intimidation. Imagine answering slowly, breathing steadily, and refusing unnecessary defensiveness. Mental rehearsal prepares neural pathways similarly to physical practice, reducing surprise during genuine conflict. Athletes, military professionals, and negotiators all rely upon deliberate visualization because familiar situations trigger calmer responses. After every rehearsal, identify one sentence expressing your position with clarity and respect. Repeat that sentence until it feels completely natural. During real encounters, your prepared mindset prevents panic from controlling language or posture. Instead of improvising under pressure, you respond with disciplined confidence shaped beforehand. Every successful rehearsal weakens fear, while strengthening psychological endurance. Eventually, confrontation feels less like danger and more like another opportunity to demonstrate steady character through intentional self-command. Others soon recognize your unwavering resolve without further explanation or resistance. The fifth strategic discipline ends every day with ruthless self-examination. Before sleeping, review your conversations, decisions, emotions, and reactions without excuses or self-condemnation. Ask where fear quietly influenced your choices and where courage guided your actions. Write one improvement for tomorrow and one strength worth preserving. This habit transforms experience into wisdom because reflection converts ordinary events into lasting lessons. Psychology consistently shows that deliberate self-assessment accelerates behavioral change by increasing awareness of unconscious patterns. Over months, you develop remarkable honesty with yourself, making external criticism less threatening because you already recognize your weaknesses. Fear loses influence whenever denial disappears. Respect grows naturally because disciplined accountability replaces comforting illusions. The greatest victory is never defeating another person. It is becoming someone impossible to manipulate through unexamined fears, hidden insecurities, or unconscious habits again. Your daily review becomes the silent architect of enduring confidence and fearless integrity forever. You have reached the point where Machiavelli's lessons stop being historical ideas and become personal choices. Fearlessness is not the absence of danger. It is the refusal to surrender your judgment, dignity, or direction because someone else disapproves. Respect cannot be demanded, borrowed, or performed. It is earned through disciplined character repeated every day until others recognize an unshakable pattern. Remember the strategic doctrines, the dark mechanisms, and the strategic disciplines whenever life tests your resolve. Each difficult moment becomes another opportunity to strengthen your inner authority. The world will always contain manipulation, pressure, and uncertainty, but your greatest defense is a mind that cannot be quietly controlled. If this journey challenged your perspective, subscribe to Hidden Oasis, like this video, and share your thoughts below by commenting, "I fear nothing." Continue exploring timeless wisdom with us, because your strongest self is still waiting to be discovered every ahead together.